Welcome back, folks, to the Membership Machine Show. This is episode 107. In this episode, it's just me and Nico. We're going to have a discussion about some new social media platforms that have emerged in 2024 and at the beginning of 2025. Can't believe that we're at the end of January. It's just flown by. Flown. And I've got my very great co-host Nico. Nico, would you like to introduce yourself to the listeners?
Oh yeah, sure. It's just moments since there's always new things to talk about on this show, and I really appreciate that. So my name's Nicole Willette, and I own a marketing company. I also have 2 co-working spaces, and in general, I'm just interested in internet stuff. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Yes. Where's the cats, Nico?
Pardon?
Where's the cats?
The cats. We never know where the cats are. No. At some point, they may jump onto my desk. One of them really likes the bright lights that I turn on when I record. So I'm sure one of them will be lured here momentarily.
Yes, we've got a number of co-hosts. Some are human, some are furry. So in this show, we're going to, like I say, be talking about some of the leading new types of social media platforms which will help you hopefully market your membership community website. But before we go into the meat and potatoes of this show, I've got a message from one of our major sponsors. We'll be back in a few moments, folks.
Hi there, e-commerce store owner. At Omnisend, we help more than 100,000 e-commerce customers just like you sell their products. We're an all-in-one email and SMS marketing platform that helps you reach your customers, grow your audience, and increase sales. In fact, our customers have seen incredible results with Omnisend, averaging $72 in revenue for every single dollar spent. And if you ever have a question, our award-winning customer support team is available 24/7 every single day. That's one of the reasons we have more than 6,000 glowing reviews and ratings all across the web. So get started with Omnisend today and start growing your business with better email and SMS marketing.
We're coming back, folks. I want to point out, got a fabulous free resource, a list of all the best WordPress plugins and services that could help you build a membership website, community-focused website in 2025. Plus, we've got some special offers from the sponsors. You can get all these goodies by going over to WP-Tonic.com/deals. WP-Tonic.com/deals. What more could you ask for, my beloved tribe?
I love WordPress. I love free stuff. Sounds great.
It sounds delicious. Delicious, doesn't it? I love saying that word, delicious. Yeah. But there we go. So let's go straight into it. And Nicole's the expert. Let's start with, I suppose, one of the biggest stars that developed in 2024 and has progressed at the beginning of this year, and that's Bluesky. So what are some of the things that you think people need to understand about Bluesky?
Well, I think that there's just been a fundamental shift. It started a couple of years ago. Do you guys remember? And we're going to talk about Mastodon later, but you probably had Mastodon approximately maybe a year or a year and a half ago. And the thing is, and you probably noticed if you've been using social media to promote your membership website, that increasingly it's difficult to be seen on these platforms. And, you know, the algorithms kind of determine whether your stuff is seen or not, even whether your own followers see your stuff or not. And so all these companies, you know, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, all these sort of traditional social media companies are centralized social networks. So they're owned by a company. And then, like, let's say, you know, I'm following Jonathan on Instagram, right? What happens is, you know, I follow Jonathan on Instagram, and then Instagram could decide to not show me Jonathan's content. Instagram could decide that I'm a terrible person and ban me from the platform. Instagram could randomly just shut off Jonathan's account. As what's happened to a lot of people, they just find that they like, oh, I can't get into my account and I can't get support to get back into my account. So the problem when one company owns stuff is they kind of set the rules. It's like we're renting space on their platforms, right? So there's been a movement in particular in this sort of post TikTok ban and, you know, other things happening across, you know, Reddit's now banning links from X, or a lot of Reddit communities, I should say, because of certain things that have happened in the last couple of weeks. So people are like, well, it'd be really nice if I could post content and it wasn't on a company's server. It was something that I had more control over. So there's this increasing movement toward decentralized social media platforms. So these platforms aren't really owned by a particular company in the same way that, Elon Musk owns X or that. So there, in some ways, you get a lot of control as the creator on these platforms in terms of, putting out content. And as somebody who follows people, I can also regulate what content I see. And so, like I said, these decentralized platforms should not only not bar you from them, for no reason or whatever, but also you just have a lot of control as a creator of what you see and then the distribution of your content in general. So Bluesky is kind of the one that everyone's talking about right now, especially, post TikTok ban. I would say this is the big one. And what's cool about it is if we're using Twitter in 2010, you might log in and say, huh, this feels familiar. It was kind of those nice parts of Twitter. I can follow certain hashtags. I can see a lot of the content. There's not, my feed isn't being, filtered. There's no ads on it just yet. And another thing I really like about it is in the settings, I can control what kind of content I see. What I've gone on Instagram the last few times, let's just say I've seen a lot more of some people than I really wanted to see. And on Bluesky, I can actually control like, oh, I don't want to see any nudity, but I don't want to see certain content that is hashtagged a certain way or that has certain, themes in it. Like I don't want to see dieting content, for example. And when I go on Instagram, as a woman of a certain age, I'm getting a lot of, poop tea content and things like that, like weight loss and whatever. And I could just ban certain words and not see any content like that, which I think is really neat. So anyway, so Bluesky is, you sign up for it like any other social media platform. You have a handle and you have a profile and you have people and you can follow content. And that's kind of how it generally works. But I think we're just going to see more. We're going to talk about more of the decentralized platforms a little later in the show. But I think there's just a movement toward them for a variety of reasons. Are you on Bluesky?
No,
Jonathan?
I've been thinking about it because I do like some of the features. Obviously, I wouldn't say I've got concerns, but I think the CEO and founder, Jay Gabba, and it's a privately held company. Obviously, I think that one of the founders of Twitter actually invested in it. I think it is a private company. I think the technology that it's built on is open technology to some degree. The protocol, it's more open than, but it's not a true open source community. But these terms are very interchangeable because a lot of people thought WordPress was a true open source project. I knew as I got a little bit more involved through my other podcasts in the WordPress world, it became obvious to me that it wasn't. That happened about 6-7 years ago, but the realities of WordPress have become much more clearer in 2024 that it isn't really a true, the actual technology is open source, but the ethos of WordPress isn't really matching up with the public image. And that could happen with Bluesky. That's why I've mentioned this, because the same consequence could happen. So you've got to understand what you're involved. But features, I think you were totally spot on. I've played with it a little bit very casually. Is that you really have that sense of Twitter about 10 years ago, and that would sound bad because we're talking about, but it isn't actually. It's a compliment in my opinion, because I don't want to get into politics really, but it's more the user experience. I actually think it's declined on Twitter, because not everything. I think some of the features I think have improved, but I do think some areas it's definitely declined. So let's go on to something else. Let's go on.
Oh yeah, I just have one quick thing to,
yeah, sure.
to just kind of build on what you said. And I think Bluesky started off as an open source thing. And when Jack Dorsey, which is one of the co-founders of Twitter, was investing in, like you were saying, and then I think he exited the project, I think in large part because it's sort of like a private company thing now. And it's really hard because we understand that a lot of the internet's great infrastructure has been built off of volunteers and off of people who know a lot about tech, right? Who are volunteering their time, who are volunteering server space, and, volunteering moderation and things like that. And it's this really tough balance because you understand that, you want to create an environment that is, and, democratically run, for lack of a better word, but also you understand that, like, there needs to be some structure that can pay certain people to get things done in a faster way.
It's finding that balance. It's
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's finding platforms that align with the balance that you think that they should have.
One thing that before we go on to the next, one thing that I think we've got to stress is one of the reasons if you've got a membership and you're trying to build, publicize your membership website and get the wheel moving, one of the great things of Bluesky is, unlike X or Twitter, I'm going to keep calling it Twitter, and some of the other more established social media platforms, if you share links to content, you're not going to be penalized. That's one of the biggest reasons to look at Bluesky. And I think it's got to a volume, and I might also, there are some third-party programs that are quite effective, and they allow you, so you can export who you are following and who are following you from Twitter. There's some third-party apps that allow you to transfer that data and then contact the people that are on Bluesky, so you can get up and started quite quickly without having to do that manually. And my understanding is one of the leading of these tools is based in France. I forgot its name. It's supposed to work quite effectively. So it makes it just a bit easier from moving or running both parallel, which I might do. But the great thing of Bluesky is that you can share links in the social media you're putting on it, and you can drive traffic to your website. And because you've got a link, you're not going to be penalized like in the same way that you are penalized on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. And that's a problem. That's been an increasing problem because they don't want you to share stuff that drives people off their platform, which is natural. But the other thing is, that's why a lot of people post on those platforms, because they want to share content that's available on their website, because it's a main tactic for driving awareness to your membership offering. So that's the important thing, isn't it, Nicole?
Absolutely. And then you have to understand that there's certain people that are leaving Meta platforms and they're leaving Twitter. I'm going to keep calling it Twitter too. They're leaving those platforms. And if you want to reach them, thinking about being on some of these more emerging platforms might be a way for you to continue to reach them to, talk about your membership platform and grow it.
Well, that's, I think I'm correct. Pinterest is the same. They don't penalise if I pronounce it incorrectly.
No, the cat just jumped on the desk.
Oh,
sorry.
All right. I think I am correct about their platform. You can share links and you're not going to get penalised either, are you?
Nope, I don't think so. I don't think there's, they're not serving ads, right? So like the reason they're penalizing the links is they want to keep you on the platform, and they want to keep you on the platform so they can show you ads.
Well, Pinterest, you do advertising, don't you? But not.
Oh, yeah, Pinterest. Yeah.
But I think Bluesky is going to introduce advertising platform
at some point, because how are they going to sustain themselves? How are they going to make money?
Well, there's only two ways, it's either subscription or it's advertising, isn't it? And I think it's going to be advertising. They probably also might introduce some form of subscription, which is what X has done, really, in a way, isn't it? And I've given him some of my money just because I wanted to upload video to my Twitter account. That's the main reason.
Yeah.
But, right, let's go on to Mastodon. A funny name, really. Was that that comes from Greek, isn't it? That was the half man, half ball, wasn't it?
Is it?
Was that?
I thought it was like almost like a big prehistoric the prehistoric elephant, with the. No, you know what? That's a mammoth. I don't know what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I might be totally wrong here, folks, but it's Jason.
I just love how all these companies, it's always an animal, right? So like Bluesky's a little butterfly. This one has a little elephant.
I might be totally wrong there then. Well,
no. I'm not a good Greek. I'm not a good mythology person, so I would 100% charge.
I'm not. I think I probably got this totally wrong and made a fool of myself, but I don't care. So. Bit more open source in a way, and you got in general. I haven't played with this either, but what people said to me, it's a little bit more difficult to set up than that. But what's your feedback about this?
Yeah, I think right now it's mainly like run by a very small team and donations. That's what I understand about it.
Anyway. I think they're based in Germany. Actually, I'm not sure, but I think.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I think a lot of people, when Twitter first started doing its silliness, a lot of people kind of moved over to Mastodon because, as sort of I'm going to take my ball and go somewhere else, sending a message to Twitter. And then I think a lot of people, myself included, I made a profile, I posted a few times, and then I proceeded to not really do much on it. But I think that it is definitely sort of more decentralized than Bluesky for sure. And it's similar in terms of, all social media sites, when you look at them, they're kind of the same. There's like the feed of content, and then you have your personal profile, and then you can find and follow other people or other topics. So like it is very, when you log in, you're going to see that it's quite similar. And unlike these, like, I'm forgetting. So there's centralized, there's decentralized, and then there's a third one where you don't even have a username and password at all. You have a public and a private key that allows you to get on different servers. So that is, I think, part of why this hasn't really taken off, is it's such a shift. Thinking about using these websites, it's not like, oh, we're putting in an email address, we're picking a handle and a password in quite the same way. So I think there's a little bit of a technological hurdle, especially when we talk about servers and things like that. So there's the Mastodon server, and then when you go to the site, you'll see there's join another server, because there's other servers, because there isn't like one central place.
I think the other thing, I think you're totally correct. I think the other thing is I can still use Twitter, because I never use Twitter the traditional way anyway. I've never used Twitter to comment a lot about people's position on this and that. I've used lists. I've gone in, got a specific list about WordPress, a specific list on tech, a specific list on a couple other subjects. And I kind of screen different groups of people based on these lists in Twitter. So occasionally I go into the general feed where I've got everybody, because you see some people and you see some stuff that wouldn't be screened in your lists in Twitter. But but it is a dustbin. It is a bit of a dustbin. But I've never gone in, and you could say that reduces the effectiveness of it, because I'm not engaging in a lot of conversation. I do comment on people, and I do like their posts, and I do try and support people that's producing good content, and I do comment, but I don't engage in continuous discussion on Twitter. I've never have, because I just don't think you can get much sense out of these type of platforms. And I think it encourages the worst type of response from people. And I think and that's part of their business model, is to encourage worst type of response on people. So I think it's reduced the effectiveness, but through my podcasts, and especially my other podcasts, and this one has grown quite rapidly, which has been quite nice to see. So it depends on how you're going to use these social media platforms. But I think in general, I think those that have benefited the most from what's happened on Twitter has been Bluesky. And in another strange way, I think LinkedIn have benefited from it as well. So I think, and we haven't got LinkedIn on our list because it's been around for donkey's years. But I don't know if you would agree. I think Bluesky and LinkedIn have been two of the kind of social media platforms that have benefited the most from people shying away or moving completely away from Twitter. What's your thoughts about that, Nico?
Yeah, I think so. And I think part of the reason in particular for LinkedIn, and I think that's an interesting observation, is that like you have thoughtfully put together lists of certain topics and things on Twitter, right? In a way that I think a lot of people don't. Like I have lists when I was on Twitter, I had lists too. And a lot of these, Bluesky lets you make your own lists. Allows you to make kind of your own communities around a hashtag, which is also kind of interesting. But I think the thing with LinkedIn is if I'm like scrolling my feed, it makes it very easy to like follow content and filter it in a way that's a little bit more, I think, automatic than other platforms that I've seen. So I could see why people would be going to, both those places, Bluesky and LinkedIn, as they were leaving Twitter. With the one thing I really miss about old Twitter was when they would have like live events and they'd have like a chat, there'd be like a virtual event. So I used to do some work for a financial planning firm, and they'd have like personal finance chat, and it was or it wasn't that, it was a shorter hashtag, but it had the company name in it. But they would have it every Wednesday afternoon for like an hour. It was always like the same time. It was like, Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern time or something. And people and use that hashtag and ask their questions. And because they knew there was a financial planner on live at that time, they would participate in it. So I think I'm with you. I don't like this continuous open-ended conversation stuff, but I always really liked that, like, okay, for an hour, we're going to get together online, and if we're going to use this hashtag and we're going to have a conversation about this topic, or we're going to bring in an expert about this topic. I kind of miss that about the old Twitter.
Yeah, there were also groups, I was exposed to it a little bit a couple of years ago, where I forgot the terms involved, where you had groups and I forgot the term, they would use Twitter to attack you in a mass.
Oh, yeah.
What's the
term?
I
don't know what the term is, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I was exposed to that. It was a couple of years ago to that, and it really left. I've never engaged in that kind of content. As somebody that believes, well, we're going to use this term, which is there's a lot of terms that we use in our general language that don't really mean anything. Or we think they mean something, but so I believe in free speech to a certain degree, but what does that really mean? It's such a loose term, such a banded term. But in general, because of my culture, I come from the UK, I come from England. You got to be really, there's people I really don't like. I don't like their views. There's other people, I just don't like them. But I don't believe that it should be banned from existence, because if there's no choice, that that's a bit of a problem for a democracy. But I don't like. But on the other hand, I've never engaged in kind of online bullying and joining a mob going after people, because I think that's a bit sick myself. So
I agree. You can have your own views. It's when you start like attacking and involving other people, and in those views that I feel like it's kind of gross. I think the term we were looking for a minute ago is dogpiling. Is that what the term we were looking for?
Yeah, it's another term for it. But
oh, okay.
Right, there we go. All right. But I think what the nice thing when it comes to a membership is that if I was looking at it, because of the link business, I'll be looking at Pinterest, I'll be looking at Bluesky. It does apply to LinkedIn as well. They've got the same as the more traditional platforms, is that if you try and share a link, it's not going to be shown to as many people as possible on your LinkedIn. They've adapted. They were looser for quite a while. They were kind of hybrid where, you got reduced, but it didn't get as reduced as something like Facebook or Twitter. And that still might be the case. I'm going to have to revise my research on that. But they're in between. You do get penalised, but Facebook was notorious. They were the worst of the worst. If you tried to share a link, you're talking about organic social media reach, you just got hammered. Would you agree with that, Nicole?
Yeah, I mean, increasingly, I feel like these platforms have been just giving us less and less as creators. Like the content we produce, on our business pages and online in general, keeps people on these platforms, right? And it's a balance. I understand they want to make as much money as possible, but like, how many billions of dollars is going to be enough, right? So what I kind of like about these platforms is that they're sort of kind of hearkening back to the start of social media, which is, if you remember, back in 2008 or 2007, where you could post a link on Facebook and it would get a ton of clicks, like tons. And I remember telling my clients, oh yeah, we're going to only post like 3 times a week because otherwise it would be too much. My God, I miss those days.
Yeah, but before we go for our break, they're the free. I'm going to be talking some others because there's a couple that we've got more of an extensive list. So we're going to go for our break, folk, and we'll be back in a few moments.
Tired of hosting providers that can't handle high traffic loads? Conversio is here to help. Our platform can handle any amount of traffic, all without slowing down or crashing. With immediate Slack support, performance optimization, and a team that thrives on resolving technical challenges, your e-commerce business is in safe hands. Learn more about Conversio at conversio.com.
This podcast episode is brought to you by Lifter LMS, the leading learning management system solution for WordPress. If you or your client are creating any kind of online course, training-based membership website, or any type of e-learning project, Lifter LMS is the most secure, stable, well-supported solution on the market. Go to lifterlms.com and save 20% at checkout with coupon code podcast20. That's podcast20. Enjoy the rest of your show.
Coming back, folks. I just want to point out, I'm going to let Nicole. Nicole runs a social media platform that, not platform, but a social media agency. And Nicole, what are some of the things that you can help clients with?
Well, I just wanted to mention a service that we started about a year ago called Trend Descend. If you have noticed, your social media platforms want you to post short videos. And I don't know about you, but I don't have infinite content ideas. And the ones that I do see, I'm not going to do a silly dance. There's just certain things that I'm not going to do
Do
as
you
a
think I
business
should
owner.
do a silly dance, Nicole?
You know, I feel like it could go over well. I don't know how good of a dancer you are. I haven't. Oh, you've got skill. He's got skill. In case you're not
I've got
watching,
no skills when
he
it
just
comes to dancing.
demonstrated. But yeah. So my cat really also wants you to check out Trend Descend. He has short legs and a short attention span. And the great thing about these trending videos is that I basically look across TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube Shorts. I see if there's something that's popping off that applies to businesses. And twice a week, I send a text message and I'm like, hey, here's the trend. I do a demonstration of the trend myself and I link to it across the platform. So you can attach the trending audio and post your trend to these platforms while filming one video that is going to take you approximately 15 minutes to record and edit. So these are short videos, they get great engagement. And as an experiment on my YouTube channel, for the last 2 months, I've been posting all the trending videos on my YouTube channel with my long form content. And that's the platform I do the best on. It's the platform I have the largest audience, the most interaction. And I thought, these trending videos aren't really going to do anything. But those stupid things that I spent 15 minutes on, not the things I spent hours on, right? The things I spent 15 minutes on are getting twice the number of views and the same number of likes as my long form content that take content. So if you want to be more visible on social media, I suggest trying trending videos. They don't all have to be silly dances. I promise I will find the ones that aren't. So check out trenddescend.com and you can get a twice weekly text message with the trend. Basically, I make it as easy as possible and it starts at $49 a month. So check that out.
Sounds fab. Right, on we move.
On we move.
On we move forward. I'm going to butcher this. Is it Pixelfed or Pixfed?
Pixelfed, I think.
Okay,
so
Pixelfed. Tell us more. I did some research for this show.
Yeah.
It sounds so. Tell us more about this.
Well, it's like, right, there's a lot of different things coming out right now. And I was sitting in a meeting with some people the other day and they're like, hey, Nicole, like what social media site are we supposed to be on? And somebody like in my group was like, there's not going to ever be one social media site ever. And it's like, yeah. And so you can't keep up with all these platforms. So basically, as you're listening to, if there's one that speaks to you, just, you can just do one of them. You can just do Bluesky, or in this case, Pixelfed. So Pixelfed is an Instagram alternative. So if you've ever thought, I miss the days where Instagram was just about sharing nice pictures, that's what Pixelfed is. And so Pixelfed is a image sharing app, but it's in the ecosystem of Nostr. Nostr. And so Nostr is a completely decentralized social media ecosystem, or I guess content ecosystem. I think it's like notes that we, I think it like stands for like, notes that we share. I don't know. There's something about it being notes, but the idea of it is that normally when we post content, right? I post content to Instagram. It is in the cloud of Instagram servers before Jonathan sees it, right? But this doesn't, there are just like these, I think, what are they called? Relays. So it's like it's almost like sending an email, for lack of a better word. So like if Jonathan has Gmail and I have Yahoo, even though we're on different email platforms, we can still talk to each other. And I think that's the idea with this decentralized thing. So you can make an account on Nostr. And let's say that I was interested in, posting my images. So I could join the sort of Pixelfed part of Nostr. But let's say that Jonathan's not interested in that, but he doesn't feel like joining Pixelfed, but he wants to see the pictures that I post. If he joins Nostr, he can see the images that I post on Pixelfed without having to join Pixelfed because he's in this ecosystem. So that's kind of what I like about it. But obviously, and then people are like, well, where do I go? Is there Nostr.com? And the thing is, there's a lot of different places you can start your Nostr account because it's decentralized. And and it's just this thing to get around where you don't have a set website.
So,
there isn't a set username and password.
As you were talking about it, I was getting
Yeah.
the vibe because I really don't. It just came on my radar because you added it to the list, and I did a little bit. But as you're talking, it's got this vibe that it's where in its section where it's competing with Instagram and Pinterest, but it's where Bluesky is that hybrid. So it's not Twitter, but it's not Mastodon. It's that middle.
Yes.
Where
I think that's an excellent point.
I see Pinterest as being the hybrid at the present moment. If you really don't want to spend too much on Instagram, but you like your content is visual, I would look at Pinterest. But this, to me, as you're talking, is the kind of visual thing very similar to what Mastodon is to Twitter. Am I on the right track here?
I think so. I don't know as much about, I've been just kind of getting into Nostr myself. I made an account, so I have a public and a private key. And I know that there's more that I can do. I can access content across a variety of servers. I know that. And like I said, what's nice is that I can see content that is part of this unified network. I think they call it the Fediverse. So there's this like a unified network, and I can see content across it without having to join all these individual places, but also I can have a central place for my content. And because there is not like one central server that to go through, I can make sure that my message is seen because it's going over, because there's relays. Like my content can go through a variety of relays. I feel like I'm really butchering the sort of technology behind this, to be completely honest with you. I just find it's just such, I think the reason that Nostr's been around for almost like 2 years now, I think, maybe a little longer. And I think the reason that you're either just hearing about it now or you've sort of heard about it, but you feel a little intimidated by it, is because it's this complete different way of thinking about connecting with other people on the internet. And it's different than social media, which we're all really used to.
Yeah, but they seem to be trying to offer, like they were offering their own membership. Creators could work with other creators and share content or sell content between. It's a kind of, they're trying to build a marketplace plus show content to other people. That's the vibe I was getting when I was doing the research for this show.
And the original builders of Nostr were all kind of into Bitcoin. And so it's one of those...
I won't hold it against them.
Well, I think it's one of those platforms, though, where they've like thought through from the beginning kind of how people are paid and getting people paid. In this way that these platforms, like an Instagram or whatever, I post my content for free, but, it's getting paid off of these advertisements. So the money can kind of go to creators, I think, a little bit more straightforwardly on these platforms than on the more traditional platforms.
So before we go on to a couple others that aren't new, but I wanted to discuss with you, which was basically TikTok and Instagram threads. When it comes to Pinterest, do you know anything? Are the user base and the engagement figures, are they increasing recently on Pinterest?
I think the last time I looked at it, because I thought, I had this like thought, Pinterest is kind of limping along, but it's been slowly growing its user base over time. Like it wasn't like, oh my God, Pinterest is so hot, and then it died down. It's been slowly growing. I think it is still very relevant. And what I like about Pinterest is I have pins that I created like 7 years ago that still drive traffic to my website.
Right. So let's talk to obviously. So what's going on in the world of TikTok? So they came back and basically they got like 60 days or something, or is it even? I think it's even.
It's a 90-day stay right now, right?
A stay of execution, but and Mr. Beast and a couple. What's he called? On the Shark Tank. They
Mark
kind
Cuban?
of put. No, it's the other one of the
No.
other.
Okay.
They kind of like Mr. Beast. I might be able to.
Mr. Wonderful.
Yeah, right. So it's all up in the air, basically. Is that correct?
Yeah. So what happened? I'm pretty chronically on TikTok. For those of you who don't know, my two platforms of choice are Reddit and TikTok. Personally, I understand that as a social media marketer, I have to be on the other ones too, but those are my two kind of personal favorites. And what happened was when TikTok came back and you logged back in, it kind of felt like, when you get home and you are like, I feel like maybe somebody's been in my house. Like something feels off. That's kind of what it felt like. So certain terms you couldn't search anymore. Like you tried to search banned books and couldn't see anything. Live weren't working. Everybody was automatically following, let's just say, certain politicians that you hadn't previously followed. You were unfollowing certain politicians that you thought you had been following, and you had been following. There was just like some rearrangement that was very subtle, but that made, I think, a collective, okay, I don't know if we can trust this. I don't know what's going on. And people are kind of, the way that I guess my particular algorithm is talking is, it's like, okay, we have 90 days. Let's organize. Where are we going next? What are we doing? And knowing that our information might be being suppressed, how can we talk about certain things in code? And so,
Well, they've got the new AI. They've got the new Chinese AI tools that will get around that.
Oh, the DeepSeek is really cool. Maybe we could talk about that sometime. But anyway,
yeah, maybe next week.
Yeah.
So, you mentioned Reddit, and that's not new for 24-25, but it's a platform. I've never really got into it, really. But I think for somebody trying to build traffic to their membership website, because a lot of people, because this is a really important conversation, we're going through these platforms, folks, because it is going to be one of the main, you should have been trying to get that small group of people that can try your minimum viable course and get feedback, and from that feedback, really, you can tone the message of your homepage or your main landing page, and really refine the minimum viable course, getting your verbiage and getting your messaging really spot on, and then using the best you can these social media platforms to drive traffic to the landing page, to your homepage. And I see Reddit as one of the main areas that you might be able to drive traffic.
Yep.
So can you give us an outline of some of the main things you think people need to understand about Reddit?
Well, it's forum-based, right? And what you probably noticed is sometime in the last year, when you do a Google search, there's Reddit results that pull in now as kind of like their own. I feel like Google has started prioritizing Reddit content. And what's really interesting about both Reddit and Pinterest is that on both of those platforms, I have created content. And by create content, I mean, sometimes I post my own threads, but sometimes I comment on other people's. And obviously, as part of my profile, like any profile on any social media site, I have a link. And the amount of traffic, like things that, I haven't posted, I think, to the business account I have on Reddit in over a year. I still get traffic from Reddit every month to my website from what I have built there. And the same from Pinterest. So if you're looking for, I think the frustrating thing with social media is that you put in this effort and you make this content, and then there's this like sort of time to live that the content has, right? Like that it's going to show up for people. And in some cases it's hours. In some cases it might be a couple of days. But, Pinterest and Reddit for me, it seems like it continuously drives traffic for years. For me anyway. And I just haven't really seen that other I guess than YouTube. I haven't really seen that kind of long-term return on posting content to drive traffic.
So you have different subjects and different forums.
Yes.
On Reddit. Is there a kind of internal protocol, informal about, because because like all these platforms, when marketers get aware that basically they get flogged to death, the actual value diminishes because every professional marketer hits it. So what is some of the unsaid rules on Reddit? You know, if you join somebody's discussion and you're just constantly pushing your products, your services and content, that you're just going to get kicked off. What's the reality of how you explain how to use Reddit in a way that's consistent and sustainable?
Right. So, for example, I have a Reddit account that I use for my marketing company, and I follow, and they're called subreddits. They're these communities that you can join, and you can consistently follow when new content is posted there. So some of the subreddits I follow might be small business marketing, might be Facebook advertising, you know, so there's different communities. And then there's some silly communities like, you know, what is this cookie cutter? You know, and it's like people just post a picture of a cookie cutter and they're like, I don't get what this is supposed to be. And people try to help them out. So it's like, it ranges from very serious topics like, I'm running this campaign on Instagram and this is the results I'm getting to. Is this a flamingo cookie cutter or what? So I join obviously the more business and marketing ones. And when someone posts a question or a topic of discussion, I comment, you know, what I think is useful information. And occasionally, if there is a resource on my website that makes sense to mention, I'll be, you know, like on the Instagram campaign, I'll say, oh, hey, like, you know, I explained this whole lead generation thing. Like I can explain it here a little bit, but if you want more detail, like here's a link to my blog post about it, like in case that's, you know. So I'm not like directly like selling my own stuff all the time. And I think what happens is if you have some thoughtful answers, you'll have people who, you know, go back to your profile, see who
So
you are.
it has a lot of relevance if you're trying to build an audience for a membership. And that's also the main thing you can use on LinkedIn. If people are asking questions on LinkedIn, you can answer them. And if you put a link into it, that it builds credibility. So Pinterest, Reddit, LinkedIn to some degree. And I think it's a very different platform is YouTube, because you, through the comments and the ability of YouTube video to live on quite a while and drive traffic to your website. So I think we've got a quiver of different platforms that can publicize your membership, your course now. What's your thoughts about Instagram Threads? Because when it was launched, you know, it was going to destroy Twitter. I'm a Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, with a little bit of Facebook, but I try and be consistent on those. I'm not really into Pinterest. Reddit, I'm probably going to have to, because of this conversation, really look at that. But I'm not being an Instagram person. I haven't even got an Instagram account, and I'm not into TikTok either. So they really pushed it, and they got the numbers. But what I hear, it's there. It's got substantial figures, but there isn't much going on. What's your own thoughts about it?
Are you much going on TikTok, you mean?
No, Instagram
or on
Threads.
Instagram Threads. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, you know, at the beginning, it was just funny to me. And I posted a video about it when it first came out, and it was like, oh, did Mark Zuckerberg copy X or what? And I was like, my whole thesis of that was like, every social media platform is essentially like the same kind of thing, just repackaged slightly differently, right? Like you said, you know, certain ones are more visually driven, certain ones are more video driven. You know, I think the thing that I don't like about Threads, but what I like about Reddit is that if I'm gonna, I guess, be interested in a topic and I want to keep talking about it, I don't like with Threads, and that's probably why I don't really like Twitter, is that like someone kind of starts the conversation and you're having the conversation underneath that. And it's not really like associated like with a community in this direct way, which is, I guess, what I like about Reddit. Yeah, Instagram Threads isn't really.
Yeah, I always
really my
felt,
thing, to be completely honest with you.
always thought Twitter's interface was a dog's breakfast. You get used to it, but you have to, it's not intuitive in any shape or form. in
Yeah,
my
I think
opinion.
also being a woman on Twitter just has never been very fun. And I think what I like about Reddit is my personal username is completely you would never guess what it is, and it's completely like gender neutral. So I don't interact like a woman on there, and I don't have to, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, it's the
Sadly.
reality, kind of, I'm no saint, but, but I always think people have their own romantic, you get people that made a fair bit of money and for some reason they want to open a pub or buy a pub or a bar in the US. And, some people, they do quite well out of it, but the majority lose everything. And I kind of point out to people can be pretty bad, but when they get a few drinks in them, you really do see the worst of them. I just get a bit louder and I laugh a bit more, right? But I knew people that if they got a few drinks in them, a real mean side appeared suddenly. And I always think kind of social media is like the bar. People have no control over themselves at all. So let's move on. You got Skylight. What's this about?
Well, so when we were talking about, we talked about Pixelfed being part of Noster's ecosystem. So the thing with going back to Bluesky is it's built in a protocol called Atproto. And when TikTok was in the process of being banned, Mark Cuban came on and said, listen, like if someone wants to build a TikTok like platform with Atproto, I will fund it. And I think that drew a lot of attention to this Atproto as sort of a foundation that, this ecosystem of content. So for example, one of the people that kind of interacted with the Mark Cuban video is one of the developers of this app called Skylight. And it's in beta right now, and you can sign up to be a beta tester. So it's live now, but what it is it takes video content that you've posted on Bluesky and it makes that infinite video scroll of TikTok.
Oh.
So, and because it's built in the same protocol. So what's nice about if you're thinking part of the reason that you're hesitant about this, besides a bit of a learning curve, is like, I'm going to build up my social media platform on this thing, and then I'm going to have to move again. The idea is that as the creator and as the person posting content, you have control not only over the ownership of your content. By the way, did you know that Meta is training its AI on like images and stuff that you upload? That's a whole other thing. But as a creator, not only do you have control over
it's going to be because obviously as a businessman, he's been hugely successful. As a human being, I'm not going to go there because they can start around. But what they're suggesting and what he has publicly announced a couple of weeks ago, and they're going to be generating those own, it really seems it's going to go really the Twitter road to some extent. And obviously, if that doesn't really, but we've got to be honest, a lot of people that go to social media platforms is to get worked up, is to get rattled, because it does encourage more engagement. But it got to the stage where I just banged. I didn't really want to do it, but there were some people. It got to the stage where there was no point in commenting or discussing anything. So in some ways, I see that as a problem for a lot of these traditional social media platforms. They become so septic, and so that I think they might have some problems with the user base slowly declining. It'll be interesting because, like I say, he's a businessman. So it's just be interesting to see how all this plays out, really, won't it?
Right. And I don't know, like I said, I just like the idea personally of a creator of posting my content somewhere and having it display other places too, without me having to do anything extra. So my message could be seen by a lot more people than know about. And if you have something to sell people, like that's kind of a nice accidental perk of using these platforms. And like I said, so there's a couple of these major ecosystems that you could potentially be a part of. And because it's still, even though they've been around for a couple of years, it's still early days. So you just have a real opportunity to join these emerging platforms as they grow and be a part of, building a community there where people aren't bullies and just posting inflammatory content to be ridiculous.
Well, it's all very difficult. It's all very difficult because it is extremely difficult because both scenarios. Do you just want a group where you're just, this is the problem, and it's probably you do need a platform that can cope. There, you might want a group where it's just people that you have very similar views to, which is fair enough. So it does an echo chamber. Or do you want a platform where you got more different people with different views, but there are some boundaries. See, in the UK, I was used to getting in. I had people that had much different views. I have family members that are much more traditionally conservative. And we can have, to a certain level, we can have a discussion. But then there's and you had this tradition in the UK going into a pub and having a bit of a discussion over a few drinks.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have that in the US. It's much more culturally, and it's much more in your face, you're an idiot, blah, blah, blah. That's my opinion. Now, the last one, which I'm going to struggle to pronounce, Atproto.
Oh, the AT Pro, the AT Proton. That's
Atproto. That's it. Sorry.
Yeah, Proto. So this is like it's a sort of a collection of places or things that are using this AT protocol, which is what Bluesky is built on and what the Skylight thing is built on, right? But like I said, so there's a couple of these ecosystems. So if you like decide to join one of them, you're also joining a sort of ecosystem of other apps and servers.
So it's gonna. So the main thing that's benefiting our listeners that I got from it makes transferring to another platform that is based on this protocol and technology easier. Is that correct?
Yeah, and you won't have to go through the same ridiculousness of like rebuilding your audience ideally in these more decentralized platforms, because not only is your content visible other places, but people can find you in a variety of ways without having, without us both agreeing that we're going to join this exact website. Like I said, I could follow you, you could decide to join Pixelfed, and I could decide to join Bluesky, and we would be able to see content from each other without us agreeing that, okay, we're going to both go to this exact place and we're going to post this same kind of content. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of promise in these kind of networks. But I think it's worth exploring.
But what I gathered from this conversation, I think we covered a lot of really useful stuff because it is a very changing platform environment.
Yeah, and I'm still like learning a lot about it. So if I said something and you look into it and are like, you were terrible, feel free to leave a comment to increase.
Yeah, sure. We love
somewhere. But at the same time, like, I'm still learning, and there's a lot to learn, but I think it's a nice shift. I think this is going to be good for all of us.
What if somebody was asking me in a membership website and they wanted to, what were the main platforms to drive traffic? Obviously, on the top of their radar is YouTube, and I still think it has importance. Mm-hmm. But I think they get overemphasize YouTube. But I think Bluesky is a good platform. I think Pinterest is a good platform. Mm-hmm. To some extent, depending on the type of audience, LinkedIn, that's a bit of a hybrid. And I think Reddit is another good platform.
Yep.
I think because the way they treat external links are to whatever extent, these 4 or 5 platforms are the ones that in 2025, if you're looking to start trying to build an audience to, that would be a way that you could attract a landing page and build a pre-launch newsletter list. These are the platforms that I would be looking at. Would you agree with that, Nicole?
Yeah, no, I think that they're great. And the thing is, I think just because these traditional social media platforms that we think of, the Facebook and the Instagram and stuff like that, are pushing video, I think that's hard for a lot of people. It takes a lot of energy to make a video. You have to feel like maybe you have to present a certain way. And most of the platforms you mentioned, it's text and it's, it's a lot kind of, it's less sort of appearance or sort of image driven, which I think is nice and kind of a lot more relaxing for people who are used to just having to be video ready all the time. I think those are great suggestions for driving traffic, and not just driving traffic short term, but these links will last you for a while.
Well, that's
based on, like I said, the traffic I'm getting, which is nice. Like, so the work you're doing will continue to work, not just a couple of hours from now, but for days or months or even years to come.
See, just to finish up, I think to get this small group of 12 plus students do a minimum viable course. And then I think the next milestone is to get that you've got to really concentrate is getting those first 100 students. Do your minimum viable course, get your first group, small group, get feedback, really work on the course and the verbiage. And then the next aim is to get, that's if you're starting off with no audience really. I think it's achievable, but you've got to have a plan. And that's what I hope we will outline in the coming episodes, folks. So, Nicole, what's the best way for people to find out more about you and your ideas, Nicole?
I'm Breaking Even Communications on most platforms, but there's certain ones I'm more active on. But you can also just go to my website, breakingeveninc.com.
That's fantastic. We will be back next week with some knowledge to share with you that will help you build your membership website in 2025. We'll see you soon, folks. Bye.